for someone that's gonna hold a king down. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king ground. I've been looking for somebody that would make me feel complete. I've been looking all my life, I wonder where could she be. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king down. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king crown. I've been looking for somebody that would make me feel complete. I've been looking all my life, I wonder where could she be. It's alright, baby, it's okay. I'm gonna love you.
Welcome to the kingdom. This is King to Queen Talk, where we provide the black, grown, and unfiltered perspective on life, love, and everything in between. I'm Tony G.
I'm Goldilocks.
Leave it to the queen. Come with something. Well, as y'all can see, we have a special guest host on today. It is a family affair. And when I say a family affair, I mean biologically, it is a family affair. We have the CEO of Sincerely Sarita and Company. We have a person who is not only a boss, but you can find her on the Word Radio in Philly as a person that is spreading love, peace, and information to the people. You can also find her writing and producing. I mean, she does it all. Really, I mean, she's like the next Oprah. I don't know if y'all are on board with it or not, but you know what? You better get on board before you get left. That's all I'm trying to say. I got my cousin in the building right now. This is Sarita. How you doing, cuz?
Wow.
Was that an intro? That was an intro right there. That was an intro. Let's clap it up. Clap it up for that intro. That was a good intro. That was good.
Wow.
Sarita, you ain't gonna clap? Come on, clap it up. Clap it up. Clap it up. Yeah.
She's trying to take it all in just like I
am. You ain't never gonna go nowhere else and get an intro like that.
I'm like, Harpo, who this woman? What's up, y'all?
Oh boy. Well, welcome. If y'all haven't checked out our Facebook and IG, go check it out because you will see that I actually did an interview with my cousin on her show. So, I mean, it was simply like we had to do it. Like we had to bring her on this show. And, you know, we are a lot less censored, you know, than the radio airwaves over here. And so, you know, feel free to, you know, kick back, relax, and, you know, talk like you would talk when we had Thanksgiving. You feel me? And you acknowledged our, you know, our matriarchs and our pillars within our family. So it would only be right if I do the same. So I want to acknowledge your grandmother, who is my great aunt, who is the first person in our lives to put us on main stages. She was the founder of Cult Theater, which is Children of Love Theater. They've been all over the U.S. to the White House. I mean, those of you who may know, you know I sing. That was the first person that put a mic into my hand and say, get on stage in front of hundreds of people. But without any further ado, we do have some special guests that will be joining us a little later in the show. But, I mean, I'm excited to have you here. Feel free, like I said, jump in. You at home right now.
Right.
So let me ask, how are you getting through things with social unrest, with COVID, with people dropping at the drop of the hat at this point? Like, how are you managing all of this?
I have the side of me that is a mother, that is a bae, that is you know, just so many things to my family. And so with that, and I'm a woman, like just in my own right. So processing it is definitely it takes time because it's a lot. Like every day you're waking up and it's something new. And
every day.
Like literally
every day is something
new. You take
new.
a nap and you wake up, it's something new.
Right.
But then on the other side, you know, in addition to my business, I'm a freelance journalist and I host a radio show. And so it's my job to stay in the know, right? Or to keep my eye on what's happening in the news, or, you know, keep my eyes on the latest COVID-19 rates or deaths or whatever else the case may be. And that's a lot. That I will definitely say that it's a lot to consume so much information that is oftentimes not really empowering or positive. And me just being an empath, like sometimes you got to take a step back
Yeah.
and really like create some boundaries and space to be able to, get your spirit right, get your mind right, so that you could do your job right. We still finding joy in the midst of all this. So I'm looking forward to tonight, what we got going on in the
Okay.
show. No, y'all be getting, yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't see,
we get a
I didn't
little
see.
spicy. Well,
I'm
before
ready
we
for
get to the meat and
it.
potatoes of the subject, Corinne, the queen of the kingdom, how are you doing, ma'am? Good to see you.
You know, I'm always great. I have a live audience tonight, so let me shout
Mm-mm,
that out there. Hello to
mm-mm.
our live audience.
Come on and speak into our future. One day we're going to have a live audience while we were recording and filming. Come on and speak into it. Come on.
And I just came back from a mini vacation. It was great. Shout out to Bay. I love you because you're the greatest.
This girl's so in love, Jesus. Go ahead.
And my health is great. My son is great. Bay is great. Life's great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, and the show's doing great. So we're great.
Come on now.
Come on. And I'm about to be the ghetto Oprah, okay?
All right, so I'm glad to see you queens living and thriving. So with no further ado, let's get to these question of the days. So the first question of the day is, do you believe that a person can have multiple soulmates within a lifetime? Or do you think that there can only be one true love? So let's see what some of our kings and queens said within the comments. Ambrisha Baby says, I think so, but it also depends on what your definition of a soulmate is. You have different assigned to your life for different phases of your life. In one phase, your soulmate could be a boyfriend. In another phase, your parents, and in the next be your child or pet goldfish. I do believe that everyone has a soulmate out there.
Not a pet goldfish. Wait, no.
Miss Barbie 220 says, a person ideally suited to another as a close friend or romantic partner is what Webster classified as a soulmate. So you can have plenty. Going through life as of this century, I see that I can only have one romantic partner. STDs are real with the 100 sign. She said, I'll pass on the close friends because all of them have issues I don't care to hear about. I don't need nobody else's problems in my mind. Social distance is the bomb. All right.
It was so much there.
That was fully loaded. La Spider says, I think some people may only have one soulmate and others might have more than one because they may have found a soulmate in a friend, teacher, coach, etc.
Come on, son.
So if y'all don't know,
So it's like a soulmate lottery. So like you might get one,
okay, let's open the floor. So let's open the floor because I see that even with La Spider, with what he said, there are multiple people that feel that way, that feel like it doesn't come in the picture or the form of a lover. It could come as a friend, a teacher, or a goldfish, apparently. So, Sarita, what do you think about this? Like, can you only have one soulmate? Can you have multiple? Like, is there one true love? What does that look like to you?
So that's the thing, and maybe it's the journalist in me. I was listening to the question, right? Mm-hmm. And there was the transition from soulmate to one true love. And I don't think that those things are mutually exclusive. Like, I think you can have a soulmate that may not be your one true love, right? Like I don't think one automatically equates to the other.
So tell us the difference between the two.
So let me first start by saying God is my soulmate. No.
Okay.
As far as one true love, I I've never been one to subscribe to that idea that there's this one true love. I just, for me personally, that's not always felt necessarily realistic. I am definitely, like, my whole brand is built around empathize, empower, evolve, right? With a big emphasis on evolve. And I believe that people, if you trying to grow and that's your desire, you're going to evolve throughout your life. And so, yeah, that may mean that you're going to come into different phases, which I agree with some of what folks were saying. Um, where you legitimately and fully are in love, right? And in that moment, that's who you're in love with, that's who you with, that's who you rocking with. Cool. That can happen over the course of a lifetime. Like, look at Niecy Nash, for example.
Whoa.
Married 3 times, right? Um, the third time was a woman. Switched it up, like switched
And
teams.
within 6 months
Yeah,
after divorce. I
right.
think
So
that's what threw me off.
But I think about, if you were to ask her, and I mean, I don't know her, but like, about a one true love, I would be interested to see her response to that, and especially even like on my show, this came up, and somebody called in and said they had been married 3 times, and the first time was 16 years, the second time I think was like 8 or 6 years, and their third marriage, they said this is it, like this is, we're aligned, this is the one, and they've been married now for like I think 2 or 3 years. Um, and so she says she learned from each relationship.
So, let's just go there. So, first of all,
Take us there, girl. Take us there.
Let's go.
I think, I think the idea that people, I do agree with you, Sarita. People have this idea that soulmate is a sexual thing, a romantic thing. So, let me give a shout out to my teenage son, La Spider, for that great answer, because that was some. Um, people don't understand that, sometimes a soulmate, is one that helps you heal, helps you understand certain things in your life. That doesn't have to be a physical thing. It's more of a spiritual connection. It could be lots of different things. It doesn't have to be sexual. So that could be your best friend. You know what I mean? That could be a parent. That could be anything. And like the girl said, hey, it's her goldfish. You know what I'm saying? That's one hell of a goldfish.
I mean, one hell of
one. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to meet him. I need to know.
Right.
Tell Nemo I
If
said
he
what's
stay
up.
alive.
You know
If he stay alive, goldfish don't live long.
what I'm saying? Can you have more than one love of your life?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes you don't really know what love is.
Mm.
So I think, when you're younger, let's just say, for instance, you're in high school. You think love is, oh, this is my girlfriend. We're walking down the hall. We're holding hands. Life's great. I love her, right? Then you get older. Let's say you're in college. And that is, this is my boyfriend. We're eating together. We're starving together. We're struggling together. I love him. Then you get married, let's say, and you're like, okay, this is my wife. I love her. We went through some things. This is the love of my life. You're in the third love of your life at this point, right? Now, let's say you and your wife outgrow each other because people do evolve. So
That
now
part.
you're on your fourth love of your life, right? And this is where you're now healed. You've healed your past traumas. You've done everything you needed to do to progress in your life. And so now love to you looks different. So I can say personally, like my relationship where I thought I was like in love with my son's father. Oh, this is the greatest love of my life. We were kids. Of course, it was great. You get older and you realize there was no love. Now I'm healed with babe. What's up, babe? And I realized that right now, what I'm in, non-toxic, a healing, healthy love, this is love. And this has always been my one go-to person. You know what I mean? So I think you have to realize what the different stages people are in, and people change. You know what I mean? So that's not always going to be the same. But can you be in love with your soulmate? I think you can definitely be in love with your soulmate once you two have healed and you realize what real love is.
What are your thoughts on, like, if you're with someone and you're in love with them, but you don't necessarily feel like they're your soulmate?
Well, I think that if you're with somebody, you can love them and not be in love with them.
Yes.
Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are married.
Yes.
They love their partner
Yes.
and they're not in love. But
Yep.
because of longevity and they've been with each other for 20 years, I love this person, but you're not in love.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, you said a lot, but you hit the nail on the head when you said a lot of people love but not are in love. And I believe that you can love many people, but there's only going to be a select couple, maybe a few, that you're actually going to be in love with. As you evolve and your understanding of love progresses and evolves, you may understand love in a different way than you did in your past relationships. And so what you thought was in love, when you experience something at a greater level, you may realize that wasn't in love. That wasn't the soulmate. That wasn't the true love, because I've experienced the nostalgia of that new level of love. Well, on that note, let's go to the next question of the day. We were on that. We felt that one, right? That was good. That was good. Let's go to this next one. What was your first image of Black love that you recall seeing, and how has that imagery impacted you? As always, we're gonna go to the kingdom and see what they got going on. Alicia Linnell says, "My parents," with an exclamation point. All right. "I was able to see how they operated in love as a team, a true partnership. It wasn't always great, of course, but their vows and commitment to one another brought them through many bad times. Now that I think back, I can say for sure that my mom knew how to express her love and be a wife and partner to my father by watching her parents." Okay. And let's get a male's perspective. Antoine underscore R4L says, "My mom and pop, that level of compatibility, loyalty, and commitment. That's what I strive to emulate in every relationship I get involved in." Corinne, your first image of Black love, and how did it impact you?
I think my first image of love was my grandparents. They were married for about 50 years, I would say. And then my parents. And now my myself, okay? Because me and baby
We
in
said
love.
your first image. Look here, we know you in love, but we need you to stay in context. We said the first image, okay? The first image.
She gave us her top 3.
Right, her top 3.
I'm
Like
like,
a T-Mobile plan. We ain't asking for that.
No, but my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, they were probably like in their 90s when they died. And so, my grandmother cooked every day. Granddaddy handled all the bills, paid all the bills. She didn't have to do anything but, take care of the kids and stay at home. She sewed, she painted, all those different things. So that was my first image, I would say.
And how did it impact you? Like, did you take that as your point of reference whenever you entered into other relationships, or did you have a separate experience? Did you separate that experience?
No, I think what I took into relationships was my mother, because I saw how great of a wife she was. Rest in peace to my mother. But I saw her being a great wife. You know what I mean? Even just going to work every day and still coming home and making sure, the family had great healthy meals, fresh juice, fresh fruits, made sure all the
she was
herbs.
fancy.
Yeah. That's where I get it from.
All right, Sarita, what you think?
I guess I would have to say my maternal grandfather and his wife. Um, that was like my introduction to um, marriage, like seeing how a marriage works. Because my mom was a single mom, so it was just me, her, and my sister. But my grandpa, like I that was my guy. Okay, that was my guy. So I was like always over their house, and he cooked. He was the one who did the majority of the cooking in the house. Um, she worked, he worked, he hustled. Let me get that right. Grandpa was a hustler. He hustled. Like they definitely had the partnership down pat. And I mean, they would, and then thinking about how long they were married, they would argue like a married couple. Um, but they rocked, they rocked for each other. They rode for each other. So I would say that was my first introduction to black love, to seeing a black man and a black woman together, raising a family, running a household. And it also, in its own way, kind of challenged the notions that I had saw as far as what a woman's role was and what a man's role was. Seeing him cook, seeing her working, him, out hustling, doing what he do. It was just like, all right, this can look how it needs to look for you, depending on, what I mean, for you and your babe, depending on what y'all got going on. So that was my first introduction to black love. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So my first introduction would have to be like when I was about 5 years old. Of course, my mom's not married to the guy anymore, but I was definitely sheltered. I guess a child should be sheltered. So apparently, it wasn't the best relationship in the world. But for me, this dude, and let me say, he was my stepfather. This dude seemed like Superman to me. I mean, he was Superman. I mean, the way that he loved my mom in front of me. Now, I ain't gonna say he was the best person, but in front of me, how he loved my mom, like I still can recall that. I still can recall like how that made me feel and how I seen like anything my mom would need, like the dude, hands down, rest his soul. God rest his soul. He's no longer with us. But I mean, that was my first image, just to see like the way that they interacted, the way that he treated me. I mean, to the point where when they did get a divorce, he went and got remarried, and like he straight up had the conversation. I might have said this before. I think I said this before on a previous episode. He was like, if you want me to still be your dad, I will be your dad. Even after the divorce. And I would go to his new wife's house with her kids, and I would be there. Because that's how he treated family. You know what I'm saying? So when my mom and him were together, like I still remember just how he treated her. Like that was his queen. Now, he wasn't the best husband, apparently. Like, you know what I'm saying? But in front of me, that he showed me that. And I think we have to have those men in our lives to see that, so a woman doesn't go out looking for love in all the wrong places. So now that we finished the question of the days, it's time to bring in our special guest. When I said it's a family affair, it's a family affair. I got my cousins in the building. I started with Sarita, and now I bring in Miss Tanya and Dante Green to the building. We're just happy to have y'all here. We appreciate y'all. I see everything y'all be doing. I'll be all on y'all Facebook and Instagram. All the stories that Tanya gives, about her experiences with the kids. And I see like all the comments and all the recognition Dante gets with being the mentor within the community, both of them. And I mean, on behalf of our community, I want to say thank you, because for y'all to be of our generation and making a difference, having an impact on the next generation coming up, we have to acknowledge that. I mean, we have to. And I want to say thank you on behalf of the community, because if you haven't heard it, it is needed. And we appreciate you. So just want to say a few words beyond that. Dante and Tanya have been married 6 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
6 years. They have 2 kids, 3-year-old Drew and 4-month-old Troy. And if y'all happen to see them walk away, they are living the real married life. This isn't Love and Hip Hop, where they're really friends and they just came together to make a few dollars. No, they're really in a relationship. They really have a newborn. So if you see them walk away or step away, that just means they're taking care of their newborn. And guess what? It's okay. It's all right. So we appreciate y'all joining us. Tell us how you guys met. Tell us how you got to the point of Black love.
We met in high school. We became friends in 9th grade. And we remained friends all through high school. Like, we were legit, like, best friends. We went to college. We went to separate colleges. Then they ended up coming to the same school I went to. And we were still friends, even throughout that time. We graduated college. And then it was after we graduated college that we decided to explore dating each other. And then from there, we just kind of felt like if we were going to take this risk on our friendship, it had to be intentional. So we just decided that, like, this was it. Like, we're going to do this with the intention to get married. And so that was just our plan from the jump.
Got you. So who said I like you first? Because y'all clearly were best friends, but that's a pretty thin line to travel, you know, because you don't know if it's reciprocal. So who said, like, I like you? That could go left real easily. So who said I like you first?
I don't know if it was a I like you first type of deal. I think it was just the vibe. Like,
Okay.
we were always together. Like, we just always hung out together. So I think it just became like the, okay, what? I'm gonna see you every day type of deal. Like, I guess I'll see you tomorrow, right? Like, it became one of those things where we were just always together. So I don't really think it was a who likes who first. It was just like a, okay, this is an everyday thing now. And
Okay.
so it just transitioned into a relationship from there.
Gotcha. And so from the time that it transitioned to a relationship to the time you guys got married, how long was that time frame? And then how long was the time frame after you guys got married to the point where you had kids or, you know, had Drew?
We started dating in 2011, and then we got married in 2014, so about 3 years. And then we had Drew in 2017, so 3 years. So
Yeah.
3 year.
Okay.
So we got him 3 years later.
So everything was like a 3-year difference. Well, I mean, I think that's a good, I think 3 years is pretty good to, even though you guys knew each other, but now you knew each other on different levels of intimacy. And I feel like a 3-year point is a pretty good point to say, okay, I can see myself being with you forever, you know? So how was that transition from going from married couple to now we have a child? Like, was that a transition for you guys?
Absolutely. You gotta think about it. We were 26 when we got married. So we had some nice time to be free. And our and so we were married. We had our first kid when we were 29. So there was a lot of nice freedom we had.
Yeah.
And then boom. We had a baby.
Drew. You on social media, Tanya, talk a lot about your journey with childbirth and the natural childbirth. Now, did you do that with both children or did you just do that with Troy?
I just did it with Troy. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Now, what made you choose that? Because there are a lot of different reasons why women and families choose to go that route. And a lot of times it comes from their experience, within the hospital the first time, and that causes it. So what caused that for you?
I'll say, I think, well, one, in Pittsburgh, particularly, our mortality rate for Black women uh, who are with child is so high. It's like one of the highest in the country. Where Black women aren't being taken care of in the hospitals. The doctors aren't really taking heed to our needs and listening to us in the hospitals when we say something's wrong. So that was a big deal for me. The statistics showed that women that have babies in midwife center or at home, they come out more healthy. The risks are lower. So I just felt more confident in delivering at a midwife center versus the hospitals, especially here in Pittsburgh.
As you guys have transitioned from, friends to best friends to falling in love in a relationship to being married to the point of now having kids, what was your initial look at Black love growing up? Like, what was the first image that you two seen of Black love, and how did that impact you, whether good or negative?
I lived with a woman who raised me, who lived with her parents. So my first initial look at Black love was an 80-year-old couple, and just seeing that relationship for that very short time in my life. And then once they passed away, unfortunately, man, the only Black love that I seen that was any kind of healthy was from a television screen. I didn't know any healthy relationships when I was growing up, or at least be around it enough for it to have an effect on me. But I think the biggest thing is, and something we didn't talk about, but in 2011, once we started dating, we got introduced to church, and we both got saved at the same time. And the pastors at that time really took us up under their wing and kind of walked us through, the early stages of not only being a believer, but also being a married couple. And I believe that was the foundation when the foundation was set for us, for both being a husband and being a wife.
Wow. So Tanya, let's talk about that foundation, of that spiritual foundation. I mean, we come from a family of spiritual, spiritual wisdom and spiritual connection. But specifically for you, like, how did that affect your relationship with your husband, and how did that evolve you as a person once you were able to get that spiritual connection for yourself?
I think for me, it taught me how to love somebody for real. We say we love people and we think we know love, and I think for me, it made me realize, like, dang, I don't even think I really know how to love myself. And
That's
so
important.
it took me through this journey of self-love, and I really believe that self-love is infinite. Like, you're always learning how to love yourself through all stages of your life. So at that time, it was a new way of life for me, because it made me realize some of the unhealthy mindsets that I had, the thoughts that I had. So it taught me how to love myself, and then it taught me how to love him. I can honestly say, like, I was loving conditionally. There was conditional love for me. Even
That's
when
real. Yeah.
conditional, unconditional, what's that? And
Right.
then once I started learning, like, oh, love is patient. Like, love is an action. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you do. Every day you just learn. You learn how to love unconditionally. And spiritually, I think that was the most important thing for me.
You and Dante have such different backgrounds in terms of what you all saw with Black love, or at what point you came into contact with it. How have you all navigated coming from two very different journeys, in terms of what you saw or how you saw Black love demonstrated or not. And how has that, like, how did that impact the way that you both kind of approached your love and marriage?
I would say I think we both came to a place where we knew that there were some good things that happened in our lives that could contribute to our relationship, and there were some bad things that we wanted to kind of leave behind. So I would say, like, the first few years of being together, we allowed God to show us how to do it, and then once we kind of got our feet up under us, then we pulled the things that we seen in our past that we felt could contribute to what we were building and kind of applied those things. Because I mean, like, you just reminded me that we come from two different backgrounds, because I feel like we're on such, like, the same page now. It's kind of crazy to think that we came from our, like, polar opposite upbringing.
So we've been talking about love languages. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So at any point in your relationship, have you guys noticed if you guys have the same love language, or is it different? And if it is different, how do you work with that?
We are so different. It's not even funny. Like, we are complete opposites. And our love languages, what his priority love languages are, those are the bottom of the barrel for me. Like, those are the lowest.
So give us his number one. Give us his number one. Give us your number one.
His number one is words of affirmation. Mine's is acts of service.
Wow.
And then is this touch. Mine's is quality time. So touch is probably one of the last things for me. So, I mean, we are very, very different. And the reality of it is we struggle sometimes with meeting each other's love language, because I didn't understand his love language and he didn't understand mine. So, where he wanted to be touched, I'm like, would you move? Get away from me. We still struggle with that. To this day, we still struggle with that. And it's not because we don't want to meet each other's love languages. It's just, it's hard. Like, we are over 30, and it's hard to kind of be like, oh yeah, well, we're just going to do something new since we've been doing it for 30 years. And it's like, yeah, I know you told me you want me to give you a hug, but guess what? I don't really want to. So, even though you're saying hug me, I'm like, but I don't want to. And that's really the reality of it. When your love languages are different, it is hard to meet each other's love languages. And that doesn't mean we don't love each other.
Right.
That's foreign communication to us.
A lot of times people say, I want you to speak my love language. But at the end of the day, you don't expect anybody to learn Spanish overnight. You don't expect anybody to learn French within a week. They have to program their mind in order to say, this is what I want to learn, and this is what I'm going to do in order to learn it. It doesn't mean you're going to learn it overnight. It doesn't mean you have it all figured out, but you're intentional in actually learning the language. And guess what? There's different nuances, because you can speak Spanish to a Puerto Rican. The same Spanish that you speak to a Puerto Rican is not the same Spanish you're going to speak to a Mexican. It just doesn't work like that. There's similar words, but there's different nuances in that Spanish speaking. And I can only say that because I'll talk to, you Puerto Rican. That doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
We're not talking about it. But so with that being said, like, how do y'all find that balance? Like, what do you do in order to find that balance?
I think the biggest thing is just knowing that, like, me understanding and knowing that it's foreign language to her, kind of helps me accept the fact that, it's not always going to be how I want it to be, and it's just being understanding and being able to compromise in that area. I think the biggest thing is not trying to change her. I mean, I'll be transparent. I spent a lot of years trying to change Tanya into what I wanted her to be, but it wasn't until I just began to accept who she was, things began to run a little more smoothly. But I just think it's just understanding that it's not malicious. Like, she's not maliciously like or purposely neglecting my love language. It's just that she struggles with giving love in that way, and it's just unacceptable.
If the intent is to spend the rest of our lives together, guess what? I got 70 years to learn how to hug
Come
you.
on, cousin, come on. 70 years. We gonna say 80. Come on, cousin.
I mean, I really think it's just the balance is not like there's no perfect thing here. You know, like I try, and sometimes I don't try, and the same thing goes for him. You know, we're gonna fall short in some areas, and that's just the reality of it. But am I gonna leave him because he didn't fulfill the act of service that I thought he should fulfill? No. You gonna leave me because I don't hug you all the time?
But this is why we have to have these real conversations, because it's that type of transparency that people really need to see. Because a lot of times we romanticize what we think love is and what we see on TV, and that's not the reality.
Being that you guys don't have the same love language, does that ever cause like a rift between you two? And if it does, do you guys ever get to the point where you're actually arguing about it? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I think it presents itself in like it disguises itself in other things. I think it gets to the point where I'm not fulfilling her love language, and she sees that I'm not even giving any effort. May not say anything about it, but eventually something will come up, and it would trigger that. And then once we have a conversation, I don't like to say arguing because we don't really argue. And when we have heated discussions, I'd say we usually do a good job of getting to the root cause or the root issue, and it's usually coming down at some form or fashion. It's because we're not fulfilling each other's needs mentally.
And let's just be clear, love languages are important. They really are, because when the love tank is empty, it is empty, and you're just not going to feel loved. And so we definitely don't fill each other's love tank all the time. Like, we don't. But to expect that we're going to fill it all 24/7 forever, that's just not the reality of the situation at all.
So how do you refill that love tank? I love that analogy. So what do you do when one person feels like, hey, you know what? I'm lacking that feeling from you right now. So in response and reaction to that, what do you do in order to refill that tank of love?
Usually just having a conversation about it kind of resparks the motivation. I mean, like I said, it's usually not malicious. Like, we're not intentionally not feeling each other's love language, but sitting down, having a conversation about it kind of like resparks it, and it reminds you, oh yeah, he does like acts of service. So let me make sure I do this and I do that, to kind of make her feel better and, kind of just do my part in the marriage.
Right. That's what's up.
Sometimes Dante, like, he'll say, I just need some human contact. Or, come here, can you hug me? Because sometimes I have to tell him, like, listen, he got 2 kids. We both work full time. You're a coach. I'm doing this. Like, you can't expect me. Like, if it ain't on my mind, I ain't thinking about it. So if you want it, you're going to have to say, Tonya, come give me a hug or come give me a kiss. Not that I don't want to do that, because I will, but that's just not always on the top of my brain. So, and
that is so real.
It's just not, because that's not my love language. It's not
right.
Going to be like, oh yeah, let me hug my husband today.
Right.
That sounds crazy, but that's just not me. Like,
and it doesn't mean that you love him any less. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you love him any less. You just show those feelings and those emotions in a different way. And I love how you guys are saying, like, how you are intentional. When you see that the tank is a little empty, you have those intentional conversations that allow you to get back on track. And when people are receptive to that, it makes it all the more easier. So I can appreciate that. So in closing, I just want to close out on this question to the whole group. and I'm gonna start with Corinne. What are your thoughts on how the Black family is portrayed in social media?
I'm not gonna say that I feel like it's healthy all the time. You know, you may catch instances where you see a Black family, you know, with the mother and the father and the kids. But a lot of the times it's like single mom and child, or, you know, a gay couple and a child, or a man and a child. And I think that's kind of like a mindset to put it in our mind that this is what we are. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like people do what they see. So I feel like it's kind of like you know, it's kind of like if we see this, then we feel like this is acceptable. So we're not really working towards, you know, the full family thing of a mother and a father in the household. Because that's not what we see, and maybe that's not how our family was, or how we were raised, or maybe we don't even have any visions of that in people that we know. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like a society thing for us, for them not to portray us in a light of, you know, of the perfect family vision or whatever. But other than that, I mean, I feel like, you know, it has to be at the end of the day what you want it to be, because everybody's idea of family and love and marriage is totally different.
I know a lot of Black journalists, right? Like a lot of my colleagues and folks who are very intentional about the stories that they tell, right? That they capture, about how they present us to the world in our fullness. And that keeps me very encouraged because they do it responsibly. So because of that, I feel like I definitely have been privileged to a degree to see the vastness of Black love, of the Black family, um, and not just in its nuclear form. We do have diversity in thought and belief within the Black community. And I think it is, because of that, it's really important that representation exists. I don't think mainstream media has ever really done a good job at all of showing who we are truly, and what we're capable of. I guess that's definitely why I appreciate, you know, what you all have going on here with the show, because we need that. And we live in a culture where so much of, you know, intimate relationships, that's relationship goals. You're looking at social media, you're seeing these folks in these pretty pictures, but we're not getting to, okay, what happens after the camera goes off, right? What happens after the cameras leave the house? What happens when it gets tense and you don't want to talk to each other, or, you know what I mean? Like, you got to push through your initial reaction or your inherent reaction when someone's not doing what you want them to do, but they say they love you, right? Like, so, you know, to have these kind of conversations, I think is so important, so that for the generations coming up behind us, they really are starting to understand and see what it takes to be able to be in a long-term relationship, if that's what you want, to get married if that's what you want. But like, in general, I just think we got to continue to make sure that we show all of our vastness, and that particularly for those ahead and behind us, that they know, you know, a Dante and Tanya exists, and they out here and they getting it and they figuring it out, and they're impacting their community for the better in the process.
I couldn't have said that any better. And so on that note, we're going to go to the fishbowl. You pick a number 1 through 10, and then I'll show you the number, and then I'll read it to you. All right? That's how it's going to roll with the fishbowl.
I'm gonna go with 3.
If tomorrow was the end of the world, how would you want to spend today?
And in these days, these
You
times,
never know.
you know, I mean, it's always the case, but man, 2020 is definitely like, is today today.
Right.
How would I want to spend it? I mean, with the people I love the most, really just being present in that.
Dante, 1 through 10.
Yeah. Let's go 10.
Okay. What has been your most proudest moment?
It would have
Look behind you.
be the day that I mustered up the guts to ask Sonya to marry me. To compound that, earlier that day, having the guts to call her dad and ask her dad for his permission to ask his daughter to be my wife.
You ready, Tanya? You ready to pick a number?
Yeah, I'll go with number 1.
1. What's the number one thing that you've learned about love within a relationship?
I'll say what I learned was or is unconditional love does not come with conditions. And that sounds complex, but you can't unconditionally love someone if you're still I love you if or how. It's legit like I love you when you stink. I love you ugly. I love you. You get on my last nerve. I love you when I'm ready to punch in the face. I love you. And no matter what, we have to use love to get through whatever we're going through.
So Miss Queen of the Kingdom, Miss Corinne, which number you got?
7.
Which 3 words describe you best?
Motherly, because I'm everybody's mother. My friends,
I can see that.
their friends, my kids' friends. I'm Tony's mama too. I'm everybody's mama.
She thinks she's my mama the way she be talking to me sometimes. I be like, Corinne, you do know there's only one Jose. You only had one. You only had one child. You do know that, right? But go ahead.
Let me see. I would say responsible is definitely another word, and loving, because I love everybody.
I don't know if you love everybody, but
I
you
don't
are
like
loving
everybody, but I love everybody.
Okay, come on through, Christian. I hear you. Now, so since Sarita is the special guest host, I'm going to let you pick my number, 1 through 10. What you got for me?
I'm gonna go 8.
Would you ever give your significant other a pass in order to allow them to do their thing for one night? Hell to the no. I'm stingy. I'm stingy. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm too mentally unstable, emotionally unstable. All of the above. I know I'm not built for that.
True. You know what? You've come a long way, and I can see that the therapy that I'm giving you is actually working now.
Lord.
Because
Corinne swears that she knows my life. She swears that she knows everything I've been through. Let her tell it that I'm emotionally wounded from my last relationship, and I'm not open for love. But listen, if y'all have any friends or anybody that y'all know, tell them to holler at me. And on that note,
See how he does. He gives half-ass answers and cut it off.
On that note, we appreciate y'all joining us. Dante is taking care of his fatherly and husbandly duties. There he goes right there with little baby Troy. We appreciate all of y'all coming in. I appreciate my family. I haven't had, my family on, so this is an honor to just share the love, that we have with the world, and to share the love that, Black love does exist. And this is actually a part 1 to what we'll be doing. So just to see that in our generation, Black love does exist. It is possible. It can be healthy because, as Corinne said, ain't nobody got time for struggle love. And I mean, that is what we wanted to show on this episode. That it is possible. You can be different. You can be night and day and still be successful with it because you're intentionally walking with purpose and doing your best in order to meet the need of one another. Continue to stay blessed. Continue to stay COVID free. And we are out.
I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king crown. I've been looking for somebody that would make me feel complete. I've been looking all my life, I wonder where. Cause she is alright, she is okay. I'm gonna love you anyway. When the sun turns blue, when the sky turns gray, my love is gonna be here to stay. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king down. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king